Hello. It's been about three weeks since I did an episode, one of my sharings. Quite an adventure, quite a packed 3 weeks, and I want to share a little bit about the time passed this 3 weeks in between these episodes before I get into where I want to go today. Uh, I've been, as some of you may know, I've been working on my own opening my own Zendo with the credo, when the teacher is ready, the students will appear. Well, teachers are ready, and we're still. That's another tale. But I've converted my garage into my Zendo. And those of you that are interested could go to my Facebook page, Hi Young Zendo. It's my business page. It's and see the progress. See how beautiful it's starting to look. And yesterday, I celebrated the grand opening. So, just myself, and I will be open from. I'll have 5 hours a day, 4 hours or 5 hours a day. That's posted that I'm open, and in these COVID times, I'm not really expecting much. We'll see. But I'll do my part. My meditation directly led to this kind of culmination of a lifetime dream of having a center, of building a family. I'm calling it a Zen family, but it's just that a spiritual family would suffice. And I know in these trying times of alienation, of balkanization, of separation and division, that it's time for some voice, no matter how small, and basically insignificant in the grand scheme of things, some voice in the wilderness crying out to touch the part of us that longs to be touched, longs to be discovered, longs to be shared, longs to blossom. And that's the universality, the connecting, the spirit that is all of us. And I'm already starting to sound a little preachy, sorry. I just kind of swept up. But in the same period of time that I've been putting together the Zendo, my brother, a good friend Rob, and myself made a 5-night, 4-day camping trip foray down the coast. Down the eastern, beautiful, most scenic coast in the world, quite possibly, or right up there if it's not. Camping at these beautiful bluffs overlooking the sea and the mountains and the greenery and the clouds and just the magic of life. What a nice time, just the 3 guys. Wonderful time. When I'm back from that, put the finishing touches, as I might have said. Turns out that February 4th was when I celebrated my grand opening. Yesterday, for those of us in Taiwan. Today, for those of you in lots of the other parts of the world. But anyway, February 4th. And it's all things happen for a reason, because my birthday is February 4th. So a month prior. So I have plenty of time to sit in my garage, my Zendo, and meditate and make myself available to the public which I've been reticent, to say the least, to do. And now I embrace it. Sorry, I have something in. I see if the microphone picked up this candy in my mouth. But as always, I've proven to be a slow study. Before I get too deep in that, I want to share this. This was a mala that my wife Colleen made from the necklace and the bracelet that I used to wear on all many of my earlier videos. And the necklace and the bracelet were put together for me, my design, but with little consideration that a mala is 108 beads. So I had an odd number of, it wasn't right. Anyway, it's quite long, it's quite heavy, but I just love it. And of course I'm sporting the bracelets that she's made for me. The orange, yellow and green to support my middle chakras. That need support. I have a solid root, I have a solid foundation, but it's the next one up, the sacral, the orange. That is a dynamic energy of life. That the difference between someone that's sacral is alive and vibrant. You can tell the easiest thing to do. My wife sits in a chair, a cushioned chair, for even 2 minutes, and I'll go sit in it, and it's warm and toasty in these still a little bit chilly days. And I don't generate body heat. My hands and feet are always cold. So this energy of life, I need to embrace it, to celebrate it. And then moving up, solar plexus, the yellow. And just as a reminder, the green of the heart chakra. So, and these two are both designed to, this is for receiving, the left hand, this right hand is for projecting or protection. So I'm open to receiving these, and I'm projecting these. And this is the solidness of my root, the solidness of my connectedness. This sacral, this solar plexus is your sense of self. Let me redo that. Your sense of belonging. I've found your spot where you belong. And I've always been nomadic. Even though this last incarnation of my wandering has been in Taiwan for 23 years. Essentially, when all is said and done, I'm still a visitor here. And always will be. Because I'm only Taiwanese in my heart. To those that look at me from the outside. So from the inside out, I found my place. But from the outside in, I'm always the other. And I've learned to embrace that role, because no matter where I've been my whole life, I've always been the other. Not readily identifiable with the community that I find myself living in, being in. So, again, slow study. Colleen, my better half, and I always laugh that she got tired of waiting for me on the other side. And she came to get this slow-moving dude. Get him going. Come on, get with it. Let's go. Wake up. And it's really ironic. Before we physically met in this incarnation, only a matter of months had I had my awakening experience. So I was getting her vibration, getting her message to come on, get with it. She's not the most patient sort. And finally she just said, well, I have to go there in the spirit. But in preparing, understanding, feeling her energy, her being coming into this plane again with almost expressly in mind and purpose to remind me that maybe I should speed it up a little bit. I don't know how successful she was, but I did wake up before I met her. And I was in the infancy of my Buddhahood when I did meet her. And I remember telling her when she sat next to me, I said, I always want you by my side. And I remember her telling me that later that was a good line. It caught her hook, line, and sinker. But it was not intended to be a line. It was and I could have easily said that I always want to be by your side. Reciprocal. So thanks, Colleen. It's so nice to just feel her energy, that she's this magic, that she's doing this creativity. I love the mala. You know, it hangs down well past my navel. 108 beads. A perfect number. So I was talking about being a slow study. And I remember sharing that for 33 years of a rigorous Zen practice with so much of effort and attention to posture, the gravity of it all, Mr. Stern, much like my beloved Dhammo. And those of you that have come Bodhidharma, better known Dhammo here in China, the first patriarch of Chan, which is Chinese Zen, the 28th patriarch of the Buddhist lineage, who left India / Nepal to wander across this stern Persian-looking, blue-eyed man coming across into China and spending 9 years with his back to the door and the small window. 9 years in intense meditation, only to come out and tell the monks that they needed to start exercising more. And Shaolin, the martial art tradition, is attributed to Dhammo. But the stern continence, which I know now, I'm constantly reminded by Colleen to smile more. But this, beneath the stern continence is the heart, soul of a childlike innocence. When I first met my teacher, one of the things he shared with me was that he found it so remarkable, amazing, that at 62 probably, or thereabouts, sorry about the math, but that I had still managed to have an innocence, purity of a child as a 60-plus-year-old man, which he thought was It's a tribute to my own innate understanding that this childlikeness, this innocence, this naivete in some ways was not only to be suffered through, but to be embraced and continued and recognized for this contribution to the man I am, I was, and I am becoming. May the innocence, may my purity remain throughout these trying times and on to the end of this physical representation. The usefulness of my body will, until the usefulness of my body is worn out. Got some time left, I hope. Knock on wood, my wooden desk. So we're back to this slow study. And see, I'm slow to get it true to character. Case in point, I'm slow to get around to. I started about 33 years of discipline, blah, 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 rigorous Zen training, in search of the Holy Grail. In my mind, the Holy Grail was always clarity. And my misunderstanding, my misinterpretation of Zen precepts, of Zen teaching, was that only through silencing the mind could one obtain clarity. What's the reward? The Holy Grail, the golden chalice, the ultimate essence that I wanted to be gifted with. And in the process, I was given equanimity and just took it for granted until in this pursuit, this almost single-minded pursuit of clarity, I neglected to fully appreciate the gift that the search had given me. Even though the clarity that I so longed for remained elusive, I developed equanimity. And now equanimity has to be my defining characteristic. As much as things change around me, I carry forth, I greet the world in this state of acceptance, which is prefaced on surrender. Nothing could have ever happened to me until I surrendered. So when I surrendered this journey for this search, after determining, first of all, I couldn't silence the mind. The monkey mind is always there. I'm not saying it can't be done, but I couldn't do it in 33 years. And again, I'm slow. I'm a slow study. But what came to me and was always with me is that why are we given this fine tool, this beautiful tool? You know, we really don't come equipped into this world with many tools in our tool bag, our toolbox. This mind is one of them, and it was only after the shredding the ego, after acceptance of the Maya, the illusion of being in my mind in control of anything, after surrendering its role in determining my actions, my goals, and embracing instead what I was gifted with, a mind that could sift, sort, file, and store. That sift, sort, file, and store. Sift through endless information, sorting out what stuck as knowledge, only to refine, spend more time with knowledge and refine it to its ultimate expression as wisdom. And now I needed to file the process, this process of elimination, the things that I've discarded, the things that I've elevated to information, expanded to knowledge, and gleamed as the golden nuggets of wisdom. And I needed to keep track of all that. I needed to store it. I needed to create. I needed to use my mind to locate it. And my mind reveled in this. It wants work. Give it a job. If you misplace something, if you can't find something. Recently I was without my new bifocals. Not these. These are my professor glasses. But my bifocals that I spend more than I've ever spent on glasses, only to lose them and put my mind to work. And it was a combination of my mind's work to locate them and luck. I'm nothing else, as those that know me, but a lucky man. Better to be lucky than to be smart. And if you can be smart and lucky, well, good on you. I've managed to my extent to do some of both. But I got my glasses back. And my mind wasn't at rest. I searched every pocket. I know I put things away, so I needed to sort. I needed to go back over my actions. Anyway, this is just an example of using your mind. Me using my mind in a manner that is productive, relevant, conducive to existence without an ego, while utilizing the mind. And to come back to clarity. Well, I gave up. I gave up the search for clarity, only to come to understand that I was not thinking of clear vision. It wasn't that I wanted to see clearly, as much as I thought was to be the case for so long. And what clarity really meant to me was something that had been with me, surprise, surprise, from my first breath. Literally. My first breath as I popped out of the womb into the bright lights of the hospital. I don't know if I was caught by the doctor or the nurse. Probably the nurse. They're the ones that do the real work. Anyway, brought into this alien world and meant to be separated from my comfort, my watery, warm, nutrient-rich environment. Dark, cozy, comfy, to bright, problematic, loud. Probably my strongest memory of popping out is that noise. The light hits first, but it's quickly followed by the noise. And maybe that has to do with your own sensibilities. Who knows? But here we are. Now I understood what clarity meant for me. It was clarity of purpose, which I'd always been gifted with. I knew that I wanted to wake up from my slumber. I knew that I wanted to discard the limitations of identifying with a false self, the ego. I knew that I wanted to reunite, although I was never separated. I wanted to understand this. I wanted to awaken to this fact that we're all Buddhas. We always have been, we always will be. We could be nothing else. Nothing more, nothing less. So clarity, boom, gave up. Clarity was purpose. Understanding, fully understanding the purpose of this incarnation. Why are you here? And I've expanded. At first it was self, as all things must begin within, only to understand that it was bigger than me, that it was to help sentient beings to process, to begin, to continue, to enhance their own waking up process. I used to call it a search. I used to be on a quest, but there are no, every search, every quest, end up right back at the same place. Right here. So, voila! Give up. And this is previous. My first giving up was giving up like Buddha did, taking a page out of his book. Why not? Might as well go for the best. Where he just gave up after trying everything. He gave up and then he was enlightened in a process of 40 days under the Bodhi tree. Well, my enlightenment was over the process of 3 days in a remote fishing village on the coast, the northeastern coast, or the north coast of Taiwan Island, in a little fishing village in my very modest and humble abode that leaked. I was living in the city, rainy city, and my house literally bled water. It leaked because the roof was flat. I don't know who designed it. The roof was flat. In fact, it had begun to boil, and water would accumulate. It had to go somewhere. If there was enough sun to evaporate, it would just permeate my 2-foot thick old concrete walls and actually bleed on the surface to the point where I had buckets strategically placed above my place. Well, this was my Bodhi tree. I envy Buddha in so many ways. Because at least he was out in nature under his tree. I'm inside a moldy house. But it mattered not. It mattered not. It's just the circumstances. So here we are. You think by now I would pretty much have gotten giving up. Well, one of the things that came to me on this trip, when you're with your brother, we were separated for 30 years of our lives, from the time from 33 to a little more than 35 years, 33 till 70 on my part, and even in those 33 years, we ran in different circles. He was, our paths would cross, but was not as close as we were intimate. Close, we were roommates. We shared the same room most of our childhood, or all of our childhood, until it ended for us. My childhood ended at about 15 when my mom, my brother, and sister left Hawaii to go to Mexico. I was invited to come, maybe 16. Maybe 17. I think 17, my childhood. They left to Mexico. I chose to stay in Hawaii. Anyway, there's a gap. But he, my brother, holds deeply onto those, as understandably, deeply to those formative years. And I was the big brother, and maybe not the best big brother, and a bit of a bully or whatever, full of self-importance, probably. But we went camping, and all this old stuff is coming up. And I had moved on. Where's the quotes? Moved on. I had let it go. Or so I thought. But I found out, being thin-skinned, that we had a lot of really, the worst words coming out, and the worst sides of us just immediately, not too hidden, you know. And I remember being really affected. Like, what does a man have to do to get beyond his past? Why does it keep coming up again? Especially when I had made this grand attempt to let it go. And when most of my work, my real work of this life, took place in the years that we were apart. And he wasn't really privy to that because we had very little contact during that period of time. So why is this old stuff that let it go? And there's so much things that is attached to this old stuff. And my reaction told me my quickness to anger, my quickness to just be upset about being reminded of the times of my lack of perfection, to put it kindly for myself. I am still being held accountable, and nothing else that I had done since the age of 17 had really made much of an impact, was of no import as far as my brother's observation and his comments. And he makes some very biting, which I responded in kind. So there was a lot of unpleasantness along with the, it's always push-pull. So I really had to take a look at letting go. Well, obviously I hadn't done it very successfully. And upon my return, it's been a week, my wife Colleen is always saying, let it go. I rehashed some of the trip with her, and the good times and the bad times, or less than great times, of my interaction with my brother. And she said, why can't you just let it go? You never let it go. You hold on to that crap. You say you let it go. So then I had an epiphany that night in my meditation. I came up with the talk today, which has been about letting go of letting go. I've come full circle. I've realized that I have to surrender. I have to give up this idea of letting go. I have to give it up, just as I gave up the idea of enlightenment or awakening, just as I gave up on the attaining clarity. Now too, to let it go, to truly put it to rest, to truly let it go, to truly let the violet consuming flame do its job, burn it to ashes, spread it into the four corners of the globe. So too, now I look at you as a man who is just learning to let go of letting go. It even makes me giggle just to say that. So now I'm in the process of letting go of letting go. And I'm sure that the reward, the consequence of this, my practice of letting go, will result in